Hi, I missed you. It's like a new season now since the last time I posted. I had some technical difficulties, aka I dropped my camera into sand. And who knew that like thousands of small gritty particles and moving mechanical parts don't really mesh well together, but I persevered. I put my camera in the fridge because I thought cold makes things smaller, and then I vacuumed it, and we're back. So I'm basically like a mechanical engineer at this point. So sorry for the unplanned hiatus, but I feel like it is basically suddenly fall now, at least in like psychologically, if not in actual weather. I am feeling a cozy energy start to possess my body and soul. I'm desperately fighting the basically biological urge to binge watch either Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Gilmore Girls. Today, I just wanted to like have a very casual, chatty hangout video and talk about fall knitting inspiration. Not necessarily, this isn't really like a pattern roundup. It's kind of more just like things that I am craving or inspired by right now, whether that's like textures and stitch patterns, colors, yarn types, silhouettes, what have you. I've never really done a video like this before where I talk about things before I make them. So the first like element that I want to talk about in terms of fall inspo is texture. For some reason, when it comes to like spring, summer patterns, I think I shy away from texture a little bit beyond like ribbing. And maybe if I have any texture, I have been inspired a little bit by lace lately for like spring and summer. But when it comes to fall and winter knitting, there is just something so, I don't know, appealing in like a sensory way to things that have a lot of texture. So I'm thinking about things like cabling, brioche, or fisherman's rib. Regular ribbing too, especially if it has any like shaping elements. I think there's just something that seems very satisfying about like manipulating the yarn and making this like very textured knit. If you watched my Things I'll Never Knit, Probably Never Knit video, I talked a little bit about cables, and I can't remember if I talked about brioche, but I find that I can get a little bit picky about them for some reason. Something about me where I'll look at things that are meant to be abstract and I'll see like very literal things in it. Even for like programming terms, like there's a design pattern called pub sub for like publisher subscriber. I hear pub sub and I think about sitting in a pub and eating a sub with like delicious mustard on it. So I have a literal brain in some senses. So something about that makes it so that I see a lot of weird things in cables. You can get yonic. If you don't know what that word is, it's like the female equivalent of phallic. There's some things look like, remind me of bugs or like exoskeletons or I don't know, just weird stuff. So I do find that it's hard for me to find like the perfect cable pattern. Last year, the beginning of last year, and then also in 2021, I knitted sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which is just a very simple, I can't remember if it's left or right twist, but just a very simple all over same cable. And I like that look. I'm not that into wearing mine because I think they're crew necks and I don't love to wear crew necks as much as I love to wear V-necks. Yeah, I've been thinking about maybe looking for a new cable pattern. I've thought about designing my own cable pattern for this fall, but I think that I just finished this like lace blouse that took a lot of work and it took a lot of planning, and I think I'm just feeling a little like mentally drained of having to think through a lot of complicated things for designs right now. So that's why I'm not really that interested in making my own cable. I also feel like visually, since I haven't knitted as many cable things, I'm having a hard time seeing like a complete picture in my head. So that gives me like low confidence about committing to doing a fully cabled sweater and like, what if I get really far and then I'm like, oh no, actually this isn't the vibe, because I'm so weirdly picky about them. So that makes me not want to make my own. I have kind of been looking for some V-neck cabled sweaters. I do really like sweater number 20 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I would probably make it with a slightly less bulky folded collar. I'm not into the like super wide one. I'd make mine a little smaller, but I do think that is like the closest I've yet to find. Another thing I was thinking about so much that I actually did cast it on was the Jenny sweater the Jenny cardigan by Petite Knit. So I actually started the Jenny jacket probably last March, like not this year, the previous year. And I had a lot of issues with that project. I think I just like, I didn't read it very carefully. I had to frog a couple of things twice. It was kind of a pain. I messed up a sleeve, blah, blah, blah. And then I finally got to like joining, it's bottom up. I finally got to joining the arms and the body. And I realized I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to the yarn that I was using. It just, I get like hot and itchy. So like that can't be a good thing. So I basically put that in a bag forever ago and haven't touched it since. I also don't love a round neck cardigan as much as a V-neck, like personal fit preference. So I saw that Petite Knit came out with a Jenny Jacket V-neck version. The yarn is a little bit different. That one calls for 1 strand of fingering merino and 1 strand of mohair, whereas the other one was 2 strands of fingering merino and 1 strand of mohair, which was part of that was one of the reasons I frogged it, was I missed the second fingering weight merino strand the first time I cast it on the round neck version. But the V-neck one is also knitted top down, and it's a drop shoulder design instead of a raglan. And all of those things made it so much more appealing to me, so we're doing it. Here we are. I already know that I like this yarn because I'm actually using it from a sweater I'm unraveling. I've already harvested 1 sleeve from this. This was a sweater number 14 that I knitted in 2021, fall of 2021. There's nothing wrong with this sweater. It's a perfectly nice sweater, but I don't love the feeling of mohair right on my neck. Maybe that's part of why I gravitate towards V-necks, especially with fuzzy yarns. And I just stopped wearing it once I designed my prep school pullover, which has like a big open V. I just really only reached for that, my different versions of that, as my like cozy winter sweater. So I really debated. I was like, do I really want, am I like really gonna frog this whole thing? But I know that I really like the color. I know that I'm happy with the texture of the yarn and I find it comfy. And I had it right there. I don't know, there's something so like gratifying about having an idea and then just being like, I have the yarn to do it right now. That really feels great. So that's why I never shy away from frogging something. And I hadn't worn this sweater in almost a year. Not something I was reaching for a lot. I will say that frogging this was kind of annoying because this sweater is knitted with 2 strands of mohair, 1 strand of fingering. So I actually had to pull out one of the strands of mohair as I was unraveling it, which, you know, I'm wasting the yarn there, but like, whatever. I just kind of snipped it as I went and put it into a big pile that looked like very, very frizzy light brown hair, like kind of disturbingly looked like hair. But yeah, I'm still happy that I did this. I didn't even rinse the yarn before I started knitting with it. It'll block out, and I honestly feel like it doesn't look too weird compared to, I did have some left over, so I started using those too. I do feel mildly worried, what if I run out? But this sweater is pretty oversized. So I don't know, hopefully that doesn't happen. And I have this whole extra ball that I didn't use. I have a little bit more scraps that I didn't use. So this is kind of an interesting, it's called a smocking stitch, but it's not quite a cable. I saw some tutorials that have you actually put the stitches on a cable needle and then you wrap around and then you keep going, and that takes way more time than the technique that's recommended in the pattern, where you basically just like insert your needle between like where you're going to do this wrap. You just insert your needle, grab the yarn, like grab a loop of the working yarn and pull it over back onto the needle. It works really well. This is also kind of an interesting stitch because it looks nice on the reverse side too. It looks very different actually than here, which is pretty cool. So it almost looks like bamboo to me. So I think that's kind of like a nice scarf option too, because it's reversible. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the Jenny like round neck version has just been living in my head since, I don't know, since very on into when I started knitting. Probably like, I started to knit in late 2020, like November 2020, and I probably saved this in like January 2021 and onwards. It has just been like a dream wardrobe item for me. So yeah, I'm honestly, I'm really happy that I'm finally making this one. I think that this will be something I wear a lot. So yeah, this is kind of my texture fix for right now. I've also been thinking a little bit about making something with brioche. Brioche is kind of an interesting stitch. It's almost like ribbing, but you also are adding like a yarn over, either with your knits or your pearls, like depending if you're going in the round or on which side. But it is also similar to fisherman's rib, where you're sort of like knitting each round twice. So that makes it a super squishy fabric, but also makes it take a lot longer and takes more yarn. So I'm not sure if I love it enough that I want to commit to a fully brioche sweater. I've also heard that brioche is pretty difficult to fix errors in. I made a brioche sweater vest from Lily Kate Makes early last year, and I actually didn't have to frog anything, so I didn't have to confront this, but I'm a little bit scared about designing something in brioche and needing to frog a lot. So I'm thinking maybe doing something like a brioche headband or something that's just like a little bit of brioche to like indulge myself in that kind of super squishy texture that I'm craving. So that is sort of the texture dreams I've got right now that I'm starting to indulge in, that just seem really, I don't know, seems really nice, seems really squishy, seems really cozy. So yeah, I think I might consider also some more ribbing. I'll talk about that in a sec. But I did do my whole Prima pullover in rib earlier this year. I've been doing a lot of ribbing this year. I don't know, I love it. I know that some people find ribbing, especially 2x2 rib, to be a little bit tedious. I think especially probably English knitters or like throwers, because you have to like really change the orientation of your hand a lot. I found that after I switched to continental, ribbing becomes like a very fluid process, and I actually really like it. Like I like ribbing more than having to do a whole row of purls, which can get a little bit crampy for my hands. But yeah, so maybe some ribs too. Okay, so let's talk about yarns. So I definitely find myself craving, I think especially as the weather turns, a very luxurious sensory experience with yarns in the fall and winter. So for some reason, I don't prioritize that much with my summer projects. I think because a lot of plant fiber yarns like cotton, linen, bamboo are all non-stretch. And I guess value practicality in terms of like knowing that something will feel comfortable for me temperature-wise to wear in the summer. So that just doesn't become a big priority for me. And I think especially too, because a lot of my summer knitting projects are smaller. Like I knitted one cotton sweater, but otherwise most of them are short sleeves or tank tops. And so it's just like not that long of a project anyway. But I feel like if I'm going to commit to a big oversized sweater, especially if there's something that has a lot of stitch patterns in it and you know, takes a lot of time to work on, something that adds to that aesthetic experience for me is like a very nice feeling yarn in my hands. So to me, that is definitely something that has wool in it, like a nice bounce to it. And I really do like the combination and how it feels in my hands of a soft silk mohair with a strand of merino. Sorry if there's like fiber dust floating around in front of the camera. I can't really tell if you can see it, but so this feels really good to me to knit. I know that's not an unpopular opinion. That's a very popular opinion. There's a lot of sweaters out there that are like holding one strand of mohair with a strand of something else. I really like the way that feels. So I'm glad that I have this project already on my needles, because that's like a combo that I really enjoy working with. I also would love to knit with cashmere. I tried reaching out to a cashmere yarn brand to see if they might sponsor a design for me this fall, but they said I was too late and they had no budget. So girl, same. I don't have the budget for buying a sweater quantity of cashmere yarn right now either. So understandable. But cashmere, for example, it doesn't have the same stretch as like a wool yarn does, but the softness is just unreal. Same thing with alpaca, just like so buttery in your hands. I've knitted one top with Surrey alpaca. It was the cardigan version of my Tied and True cardigan, the long sleeved version. That is actually gonna be looking for testers soon. But yeah, I found that to be so amazing. It just felt so good in my hands. The downside of alpaca is it doesn't have the same memory as wool, like it doesn't bounce back as much. So I have found that the elbows on the sleeves of that cardigan are starting to bag out a little bit, which that's fine. It doesn't really bother me too much because they're like slightly balloony sleeves anyway, but that's something to think about. So I have thought about maybe doing something with a strand of mohair or a strand of alpaca. I also think that alpaca is nice if you have any itch sensitivities like I do. I don't love to have mohair right by my neck, for instance. So alpaca is really nice for that. You get the like halo and the fuzz, but you don't have, to me at least, itchiness, unless maybe you're allergic to alpaca. Don't use things you're allergic to. Another one that I've been eyeing is the Far yarn by Woolfolk. It's like a chainette yarn, and a friend of mine made a sweater with it like 2 years ago, and I still think about it. So it is just so luxuriously nice. And her sweater was fisherman's rib, so that extra squish factor. But yeah, so that's something that I'm thinking about. Another yarn I'd really like to get to work with again, but the company that made it went out of business, I'm pretty sure, is the Stitch & Story Cash Merino Luxe. I actually got this yarn originally for a test knit that I did for Lily Kate Makes, which was a very cute top called the Tidy Tee. I didn't end up wearing it because it was just too warm for a t-shirt for me, but I reused the yarn to make this little like scarf and hat set that I wore to death over the last couple of years. Very, very skinny scarf. You may or may not see these in a little Gilmore Girls knits video coming up. I just feel like this color combo and skinny scarf with a big fluffy hat, very Gilmore Girls coded to me. But anyway, this was like a cashmere, it's like very loosely spun cashmere, nylon, and merino wool. And I don't know if my camera's really picking up on it that well, but it's this like very icy powdery blue that I just find really beautiful. If you know of any other yarns similar to this one, maybe I'll just look on Yarn Sub right now. I don't know if it's on there. I said it wrong, it's Wool Mere Luxe. It's not on Yarn Sub. Okay, well, tragic. If you know of any other yarns like that, let me know, because I want to knit with them. So, okay, those are some of the yarns that I've been craving. And then another sort of category is what I think of as kind of like workhorse yarn. So Cascade 220, for instance, that's just like, it's not that soft to the touch in my opinion, but it never itches me. Like it just is comfy to wear, but it feels a little more, it's a little bit rougher. So it feels like durable, and I feel a little bit less precious about wearing things that I've made out of that yarn than I would than this sort of lightly spun yarn that would pill more easily. So I feel like something like Cascade 220 is just really great for a sort of like everyday sweater that you're gonna be putting on under your coat. You're gonna be like, you know, wearing out a lot and you don't wanna worry about a ton of pilling under your arms, or like you wanna wear it to work and you don't want your like shitty mesh office chair to be, I don't know, de-pilling, like pilling the entire back of your sweater throughout your workday. I feel like Cascade 220 is really nice for that. I'm almost done actually. Okay, I don't wanna share the whole sweater because I want to save it for my next podcast episode, but I'm almost done with a colorwork sweater using Cascade 220 Sport. This is the back. I'll show you just a glimpse. There's colorwork on the front. This yarn is very woolly, but feels surprisingly soft and squishy, so I'm really happy with this yarn. I did get this yarn free from Cascade, like they sponsored my design. So disclaimer there, but I actually like did a bunch of research on which yarn I wanted to use and then asked them. So I'll talk more about that in my next podcast episode, how and why I chose this yarn particularly, but it is 100% wool and it feels really nice. It's really great for color work. It has a little bit of a soft halo to it, just like a little bit of fuzz that I really like and I wanted on this sweater, but I feel like it will hold itself pretty well. It's not pilly. Yeah, so that's another yarn that I am really liking and I might consider for some more fall projects. I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna have 1 or 2 skeins of this white left over, and this is how much of the navy I have left over because there's just a little bit of color work on the front. So I might do like a matching headband. I got really into headbands at the beginning of this winter, like the beginning of this year. I made the halo headband pattern and I really like the idea aesthetically of like having headbands that match your sweaters. So maybe I'll make a matching one with the scraps of this. Okay, so one last note on cashmere. I was bummed that I couldn't get like a yarn sponsor for that cashmere sweater, but I actually found some cashmere sweaters at a thrift store near me. I've had really bad luck thrifting here and see a lot of like pilly acrylic sweaters from Old Navy that are sold for like $15, which is crazy. So I was excited to actually see 2 cashmere sweaters that were on sale for I think about $10 each at a thrift store. So I decided to buy them and unravel them for yarn, which has been kind of a fun experience. I've only ever unraveled my own things that I knitted before where I knew exactly like which side was the cast on and cast off, etc. So let me know if you'd like a video on the process of unraveling these because it's kind of satisfying in my opinion. But here are 2 hanks that I've wound up from, this is from like the bottom band of a very dated looking kind of lacy sweater. And then this was from one sleeve of a much thinner weight cashmere turtleneck. So I was hoping to use these yarns for some machine knitting projects because I figured now that I have a knitting machine that's standard gauge, I can knit a lot finer yarns more easily than doing it by hand would either take a lot more yarn because you'd want to hold it double, or you'd have to use like size 000 needles, and I just don't have the patience for that right now. I think that I'll be able to do that with this yarn, but this yarn is actually very, very delicate and fragile, which I kind of wasn't expecting. So as I was unraveling it, it was frequently, even just trying to like ball it up, it was pretty frequently starting to just like tear. I'll show you just an example of how easily it pulls apart. So it is extremely soft, but it's very delicate. So I think there's no way I can use this with the knitting machine because anytime there's like a jam or like a little bit of extra tension, it would just snap. And I think that would probably, I'm like sweating thinking about it. That's like the most annoying thing for me with the knitting machine is like fixing drop stitches and things like that. It feels like it can get out of control much faster than hand knitting. So I think that I'll reserve this one for hand knitting projects. We'll see how it knits up. I need to do a little swatch. I'm thinking about making like a headband. I don't think I'll quite have enough for like a proper sweater out of this because the sweater that I'm like harvesting it from is lacy. So it has like a lot of open sections to it. So I don't think that I could like map that to a fully stockinette sweater. I need to pick a project that I know will be smaller than the lace sweater because I don't want to run out of this yarn that I definitely can't get more of. And then this yarn, this is just a single strand of 2-ply. And it's this like kind of light, I don't know, not light actually. It's like a pretty saturated periwinkle color. I really, really like this sort of like light purpley blue. I've always liked periwinkle. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this yet. Kind of thinking for some reason like a very luxurious tank top, which feels like very silly to say because why would you make a cashmere tank top? But I just had a vision in my head of this as a tank top and then like a matching headband and like a matching skinny scarf or something. And that just feels like luxury. I don't know. I really, really like this color. So I'm excited about this. I hope that my machine can handle it. And if not, then I might do, I don't know, some kind of hand knitting adventure with it. Okay, so that brings me into another topic, which is colors. So colors that I'm really craving this fall. So if you've been following my channel, you know I made a lot of things in especially black and cream over this last year. I love to wear black and I really like how it looks. I think it makes my hair look more brown and red than black. And I just really like it. But yeah, so I'm like kind of fighting the urge to do more black stuff this winter. I just find it very wearable. I really like it. And I think that one of my design aesthetics I think I gravitate a lot towards is kind of very like romantic feminine pieces. And I think that sometimes if I go with a more pastel or light color palette, I worry a little bit that it feels a little bit too girlish for me. So that's kind of why I like to balance some of my more like feminine designs with going for like a darker, more severe color, is I think that it like balances it out a little bit more and makes it feel a little bit more adult for me. And again, that's just, this whole video is about personal preferences. The other color that I'm like really craving is a very chocolatey brown. A friend of mine said that brown is like in a trend cycle right now, and she says that she always notices it because she loves brown, and whenever brown is like in trend, she's like, this is my zone. I feel like, I don't know, out of the loop in some ways. I haven't been on TikTok that much this year because stupid reasons. My phone is always running out of storage space and I just delete it and then I kind of forgot about it. So I feel like that is where I get a lot of my fashion girly content. I think that I got influenced into brown though. 2 reasons. One, I have this brown plaid dress that I got last year that I'm still obsessed with. But there is this Reformation sweater, I think the Antoinette sweater, I'll double check on that. That's like a ribbed sweater in cashmere, this like rich chocolatey brown with either a navy blue or a black ribbon that's velvet. And I'm so obsessed with the contrast of those colors and textures together that I like am literally thinking about making this exact sweater. So that was what I was kind of imagining for that sweater that I was hoping a cashmere brand would sponsor me for. But yeah, I'm just really into chocolate right now. So I've actually found it kind of hard to find really exactly the kind of chocolate brown that I'm thinking about. And since knitting for Olive, which I feel like has a really great selection of colors in general, some of the browns are just not quite right. Like, let me look at them for a second. Look at the merino. So they've got brown bear, but it's like almost black and a little bit variegated, it looks like potentially. And then dark moose is just not, like dark moose, soil, and bark all have sort of a greenish tinge to them for some reason. Tell me if I'm crazy. Like, do you see that on your screen too? But I don't like a greenish brown. That's just not, that doesn't like meet my vision for what this kind of brown will be like. I did start looking through my own stash and I found this Toft DK chestnut wool yarn that I don't feel like the camera, yeah, maybe when I hold it farther back, this is kind of showing the like richness and darkness of this brown. I think this is really nice. This yarn is really expensive though. This was in like this big yarn haul that I got from a friend. So I don't really have enough to make a full piece in this yarn, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if I'll do something with this, maybe just an accessory, but this is kind of the chocolatey-ness that I was thinking about. I wish that I could find this in like a mohair too that I could pair, but I haven't yet found a mohair that looks the right color of brown that I'm looking for. But I'm also really into that sort of like cognac, caramel kind of brown. It's like a little bit different from beigeiness, which I'm not super into. Like I would say this is kind of like a taupe brown. And then this is caramel knitting for olive in merino, which actually, that's what I'm using for this sweater. This Jenny jacket is brown nougat, soft silk mohair, and caramel. I actually like the caramel color more than the brown nougat. The brown nougat is like pinker and dustier and like less saturated. This one is really just like a rich caramel cognac-y brown, but I realized this color has actually been discontinued. So fingers crossed that I have enough to actually finish the sweater. I didn't really think about it until I was looking for more brown yarns for this video. I'm not really that into like beige oatmeal right now. I feel like I'm looking for more of like a punch, like not a khaki sort of trench coat neutral, but more like a warmth that can get added. This cashmere yarn that I got is honestly more taupe than I would be looking for, although I still think it's nice, but that was just because I found it thrifting. If I were shopping for cashmere yarn, I would have looked for something a little more saturated than this. That's actually something also that I didn't quite love about the color of my original Jenny jacket. It was in the color Petite Knit Sunday, I think camel color that the original sample was knitted in, but it was just a little too light and like not saturated enough for me. So I also looked through my stash and I found this fall for November yarn in the color bark. And this is a variegated, very chocolatey brown, but with some like blackish brown streaks in it. This is too yellow. This kind of shows the depth of it more. So I have like a few different skeins of this. It's 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon fingering weight, which this was also in the hand-me-down stash that I got. I'm not really looking for like a full-on fingering weight project right now. So I was thinking about maybe finding, again, like a brown mohair that I really like to hold with this that will sort of like tone down some of the variegation too, because I'm not a huge variegated yarn girl, but this is totally fitting the general color that I'm craving. This is kind of like a purpley taupe. This is silk that was also in my stash, hand-me-down stash, that I think is really pretty. I don't know what I'll do with that, if I'll do anything, but I just wanted to show it. And then I think honestly, because of these two, like this hat and scarf combo, and then also this like periwinkle cashmere that I got, made me pull out these as well. This is Pancake and Lulu mohair yarn and violet icing, and it's like a very, I don't know, like slightly periwinkle undertones, but then light. It looks more purple on camera. It looks a little more blue in person. But this just looks like a magical object somehow. I don't know. The variegation of this, I just think this looks really beautiful. I don't know how it will knit up, because I find I like variegated yarn more in the hank than I do knitted up, but I thought that was really pretty. And then this Bien-Aimé boucle yarn that I just love, this periwinkle blue, and then there's some like plummy sort of mauve and taupe. I just think it's really pretty. I bought this skein one off with no plans. It's not, normally, I don't normally buy yarn like that at all, but I was like there, I was at a yarn store, Brooklyn General on a trip, and I wanted it as like a souvenir. So maybe this will be like a headband or something, but I think it's really pretty. And then lastly, another color that I've been really into for fall is like burgundy, which again, I have this sweater from last year, sort of like purpley, deep red, or maroon too. This one's like probably a little more purple than I would have picked if I were shopping around, but I don't know, it is really, really pretty. I really like this for fall. I kind of very monochromatic when I wear it with these corduroys that I have on. And then the last one is red. So I feel like that is one thing that I've been seeing everywhere as like a trend for fall, is a pop of red. I don't know, I've always loved red. Red nails in the fall, like red kind of accessories and accents. I also have, this is the same as this like Toft DK Actually, this one might be Aran, but Toft, it's like, I think a British brand, I'm guessing. But I have actually enough of this Aran weight red yarn that I might make a sweater vest with it. I do also have my Tied and True tank that I made last year. I made it as a tank, but a lot of my testers styled it as a vest, and so that makes me want to wear mine as a vest too. So I kind of already have a red sweater vest. So I'm not really sure what I'll do with this. Maybe it will be an accessory, but I love a pop of like blood red, lipstick red. I think just looks really nice. And I think especially if you're kind of pairing things with like denim, neutrals, black, it's just a nice, vibrant pop to have. So that is kind of my color vibe right now, but especially these chocolate browns and these like periwinkles. And actually, maybe that's like kind of a dated color combo, but I feel like they look kind of pretty together too. I don't know, and I think they both look pretty with denim also. Okay, so lastly, I'll talk a little bit about just like general silhouettes, project types, whatnot. I definitely am in like a cardigan era. I feel like I realized I have so few cardigans that I've knitted, so I really feel like this Jenny jacket is gonna fill a hole in my like handmade wardrobe. I also made a cream colored cardigan that I'll share on my next podcast episode. And yeah, otherwise like pretty much sweaters. And then randomly a tank top maybe because I'm feeling like a luxurious tank top. I don't know why. I do still love to wear my hand knitted tanks in the winter though. And I think they especially layer well with like cardigans or like put a little lace layer, long sleeve underneath. So I definitely still wear my tank tops in the winter, but those are some of the project types I'm craving. And then, like I said, I really like the idea of having a little matching headband or matching scarf with other things that I've made. So I might also have some more like little headbands in my future. I think they're also just a nice little like refresher project. Oh yeah, we'll talk about this more in the podcast, but I might be a sock knitter now. I've knitted my first sock. I've already started my second. That seems like the highest barrier to entry, so maybe I'm just like fully in the sock club now. But I like the idea of knitting socks this winter. I don't know, sounds luxurious and comfy and enjoyable. In terms of like style, aesthetic, inspiration, I definitely feel like every winter I crave sort of like 70s-ish aesthetic a little bit, like with these corduroys, sweater vests, collars, like wool, tweed, leathers, like natural materials. I don't know, I feel like it all just goes together really well. And I love like a good ribbed accent, which I feel like can read kind of like 50s, 60s, 70s to me. I also am definitely getting some inspo from like 90s, 2000s trends, like flared sleeves, ribbing. I don't know, keep an eye out for a Gilmore Girls themed video potentially, because that will go into some more of those kinds of themes. And I'm still into balletcore. I've always been into balletcore, like since I was in college, so you're probably gonna see more of that too. I love a good wrap sweater, and I'm still not over ribbons. I just think they're really pretty and nice, and add a really nice like contrast of textures, like with satin and knits or velvet and knits. I think just go really well together. Okay, this was kind of a rambly video, but honestly, I love talking about knitting with people, so this was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. I feel very inspired right now. Like, I'm actually really glad that I collected all of this yarn down here to film this, because now I'm feeling really inspired. Like I said, it all smells like cedar and lavender, and just that smell now, it just gives me like excited knitting energy. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to dig into some more fall projects, and I'd love to know, are you already working on your fall knitting plans? Do you have plans? Do you have colors or textures that are really exciting or inspiring you right now? It's just always fun to hear what you guys are working on. So thanks so much for watching if you made it this far. I missed you, so come hang out again next time, and hopefully I'll get back on my like regular filming cadence now that I have de-sanded my camera. So thanks so much, and if you're not a follower, follow along for more knitting videos. Okay, bye.